In my 20s, I lost the love of my life to cancer. After that devastating loss, about 8 years after, I decided to travel around the world by myself. It's something that a lot of Europeans or Australian or New Zealanders do. Not very many Americans will pack up and leave to travel the world by themselves. But I tend to do things a little bit backwards sometimes. And I started out by heading down into Mexico, South America, and Central America without a lick of Spanish. Nada. I didn't even know the word nada. Along the way, I learned lots of Spanish words. One that I learned was the word gringo, as in somebody from the United States. The rest of us pasty white people were from Europe or the country we come from, for me, Irlanda. After traveling for about 2 years, I landed in Spain. And at that point, here's what the backwards part is, I decided it was about time I should take some Spanish language classes. So I was in Madrid, I took some classes, I moved to Barcelona, I studied Spanish in Barcelona, and then in December 2003, I set myself up for classes, a 5-week class over December and January in Sevilla in the south of Spain. I took a bus down to Sevilla. It was a dark December night, and I took a taxi from the bus station over to the apartment building where the school had set me up in an apartment with other schoolmates. My taxi pulled in front of the building, and I was getting out of the taxi when I noticed another taxi pulled right in behind me. And I noticed a gringo getting out of the taxi behind me. This wasn't my first rodeo, and I assumed that said gringo was one of my roommates. Now, after you've traveled as much as I had traveled, you get to identify where people might be from. It could be their suitcase, it could be their clothes, it could be their haircut. That's why I assumed the gringo was from the United States. Assuming it was my roommate, I paid the taxi driver as fast as I could, threw the backpack on my back, and legged it into the building. In the building, there was a small elevator that pretty much just me and my backpack would fit in. Pressed the button up to the 4th floor, into the apartment. I could see on the left-hand side of the apartment, there were 3 bedrooms. I knew there were bedrooms because they had name tags on the door. Made my way over to the first bedroom, and it was my name. Whipped the name off the door, stuck it in my pocket, and I opened the door. It was a cute bedroom. Made my way over to the second bedroom. Still with my backpack on, my monkey hat, my coat, my jeans, my hiking boots. The name Ruben was on that door. I knocked on the door, listened. Nobody answered. I opened the door, and there was luggage on the bed. Continuing on with my backpack and winter woolies onto the next bedroom door. I knocked. The name Don was on that door. I listened. Nobody answered. I opened that door, and it was a big barren room that I really wasn't interested in. So this was not my first rodeo. I was looking for the best bedroom. And just as I closed that 3rd bedroom door, in walks the gringo into the apartment. We shared pleasantries, and I went to my bedroom, took off my backpack, and realized that there was no curtains on my bedroom window, no blinds, and my bedroom looked out onto this small courtyard, so all the other apartments could see into my bedroom. Around that time, our 3rd roommate came in, Ruben. So Ruben was from the United States, Don was said gringo. Ruben was from the Netherlands, and Don was said gringo from the United States. When I went back after chatting with Ruben for a few minutes, I went back into my bedroom to get ready for the 5-week stay. And I remembered in the bottom of my bag, I had a scarf that I had purchased when I was in Rio de Janeiro. I'd taken belly dancing classes in Rio, and they suggested that I have a silk scarf to dance with for belly dance class. They had blank silk scarves, and they asked me what color I wanted it hand painted. Well, I had been to Carnival, and I knew about their elaborate colors and style, so I just said to the Brazilians, you guys know about color and style, you paint the scarf. The next class, they returned the scarf to me. And it was stunning, it was beautiful. It had stripes of yellow and orange and green and purple and blue. It was the perfect curtain for my bedroom. The next morning was Monday morning, and the two guys set off to school to test into Spanish class. I didn't have to because I transferred from another school. That evening, I met up with all the other schoolmates. There was about 90 of us had come in from all over the world to study Spanish for 5 weeks. The next morning was Tuesday morning. Don and I had been set up to study Spanish. Our Spanish classes were first thing in the morning, where Ruben's classes were in the afternoon. Don and I set out on Tuesday morning to walk across the beautiful city of Sevilla with stone cobbled narrow streets and gorgeous architecture. But before we got to the city, we had to cross across this really busy intersection, which was right near where we were living. As we set out to walk that morning, it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were just chit-chatting. Where are you from? What do you do? When right in the middle of the intersection, Don says, do you have a boyfriend? Where the hell did that come from? I barely knew the guy, like less than 48 hours. And here we are crossing the middle of a busy street. I was wondering if he was trying to get us killed. Traveling alone, single, young woman, I kept my guard up. I didn't share too much. So in the panic of trying to cross across the street, I just said that I didn't have a boyfriend, but when I was in Brazil, I had dated a Brazilian. Wednesday evening, we were at home. Don and I were at home. Ruben had not returned from class yet, and Don asked me if I would like to watch a movie. Now, this was 2003. Nobody traveled with a laptop and a cell phone. But Don was traveling with a laptop and a cell phone. I was super impressed. So I was sitting on the couch, and Don was setting up the laptop on the table in front. And next thing, he does this stretch. And it wasn't like, I'm tired stretch. And it wasn't, I need to stretch my muscles. The only thing I can describe it as awkward. And the thought that went through my mind right then was he going to murder me? Here I am in the south of Spain. Barely any of my family or friends knew where I was, in an apartment with a stranger that I barely knew, and he's doing strange things. Don proceeded to sit down beside me on the couch, said some small chat, and he leaned in. Now, I thought he was cute. I was mega impressed that he was carrying technology with him, but I just thought he was going to kill me. I decided to go with the flow. I know you're all wondering what happened next. The only hint I'm going to give you is I'm still alive. The next 5 weeks are full of shenanigans. We went salsa dancing pretty much every night of the week with our other schoolmates. One of the things that I love to do is to get people together. And because all 90 of us were in Sevilla, away from our family and friends for the whole holidays over December and January, I thought a hot whiskey night would be a great event to have. So I planned this hot whiskey night outside the famous cathedral in the middle of the city. We purchased whiskey and lemons and cloves and cups and sugar, and one of our other roommates, or one of our other schoolmates, had a huge container of hot water that he could bring. So that evening, it was gorgeous, Christmas festivities, standing outside, sipping hot toddies with our friends, new family over this holiday season. We were getting towards the end of our whiskey stash when a bunch of homeless people came up to me for some whiskeys. Now, my memory of having a fantastic night in Sevilla that night, drinking hot toddies, but the icing on the cake was sharing it with the locals. What started out as roommates did not end up in death, but dating. And early on, when we were dating, I said to Don that after these 5 weeks in Sevilla, that I was heading to India for a couple of months. He asked that I stay so that we just met each other and we could get to know each other. Without even thinking about it, I had not even crossed my mind before that second. I said, only if you go to Morocco with me. I had no intention at that point of going to Morocco, but he came to Morocco with me. A girl can't give up a trip to India without something in return. So yes, sometimes I do things backwards, but in doing things backwards, I met a man, fell in love. I'm one of the luckiest girls on the planet. I traveled all around the world to meet a Texan in the south of Spain.